Hello everyone, this is Dr. Ritin Kumar, Assistant Professor, AJ Institute of Engineering and Technology, Mangaluru. Dear students, in the last class, we have seen the concept related to Coulomb's law in the vector form. We have seen the electric field intensity, the definitions, electric flux. We have also concentrated on Faraday's law of electric flux density and displacement, electric displacement. We have also saw the Gauss law. We have seen the statement of the Gauss law and the proof of the Gauss law stating that total flux is equal to net charge enclosed inside the surface. We have also seen differential or point form of Gauss law and also Gauss divergence theorem explanation, and also we have seen the Stokes theorem. Okay, so in the today's class let us concentrate on some of the laws. So first one we have to see is Biot-Savart's law. So what is this Biot-Savart's law? In physics, especially electromagnetism, the Biot-Savart law is an equation describing the magnetic field generated by a constant electric current. It relates actually the magnetic field to the magnitude, direction, length and proximity of electric current. The Biot-Savart law is fundamental to magnetostatics, playing a similar role to that of Coulomb's law in electrostatic. When magnetostatic does not apply, the Biot-Savart law should be replaced by some of the equations called as Jeffimenko's equation, and the law is valid in magnetostatic approximation and consistent with both Ampere's circuit law and also sometimes with Gauss law of magnetism. So let us see what is the statement of this law. It states that the magnitude of a flux density at a point due to a current element is directly proportional to the product of the current, the length of the current element, and the sign between the current element and the position vector to the point current element, and is inversely proportional to the between the point and the current element. So it tells that the magnitude of the flux density at a point due to the current element is directly proportional to the product of the current. Okay, so length of the current element, sine of the angle between the current element and position vector to the point from the current element, and is inversely proportional to the square of the distance between the point and the current element. So this law gives you a magnetic flux density at a point due to a current carrying conductor. So we can show this one in terms of a diagram telling that you can see here. So you can see here regarding this one. So the magnitude of the flux density. So here this is called as flux density. So this flux density is related to the current carrying element I. So there is a current carrying element. So I is the current which is passing through this straight conductor, which is and length of the current element. So if let us suppose, let us take that this is a current carrying conductor. Let us take here a small element IDL. So you can take like this a small element. So this small element you can take it as IDL, where DL is the current carrying element and I is the current through that element. Okay, and the sign of angle between the current element and the position vector. Now suppose if you take a conductor which is carrying a current I. Now let us take a point, say something like B. Now we have to determine what is the magnetic field at this point. Okay, so that we have to draw a line. So like this. So distance from the current carrying conductor to the point, this is taken as radius vector R, and this is taken as theta. So this is taken as theta. So between, if you take this is a small current carrying element, so theta is the angle between the current element and the position vector from the current element, and is inversely proportional to the distance from the point. So this point to the current element I. So this is actually called as Biot-Savart's law. So this. So now let us see what is that one further. So next, let us consider in current conductor I. So the magnetic flux density at a point P due to the current element dl is obtained from the Biot-Savart's law as dB is equal to I dl into sine theta. What is k? That is dk idl into sine theta by r square. What is k? K is equal to mu naught by 4 pi. It is actually called as constant of proportionality. It's called as a constant of proportionality, or dB, that is a magnetic flux density at a point, is equal to mu naught by 4 pi idl sine theta by r square into r cap, and the unit we can have this one is Weber per meter square, or else it can be called as a Tesla. Okay, so next one, so dB is equal to mu naught by 4 pi. So here, so you can see this equation as this term here, idl sine theta. So idl sine theta, it is a cross product of current element and uh, uh, current element and the current. So this can be replaced by dl into r divided by r cube. So here, so you can change this one as, so this can be replaced as r cap is equal to r vector by r, that is, you know how to convert a unit vector. As I stated earlier, unit vector r cap can be converted as vector r divided by magnitude of r. So here r cap is replaced by r vector by magnitude of r. So that we have written here, it is r vector by r. So this you just substitute in this place. So r cap. So further this equation reduces to idl dB is equal to mu naught by 4 pi idl into r vector divided by r cube. So this is called as vectorial representation of Biot-Savart's law. So the direction is such that the flux density is perpendicular to the plane containing the current element and the position vector at that point of the current element, at the point at which flux can be calculated. So in this way one can calculate the direction of the flux density. You can also go for right hand clasp rule, where whirling of the fingers etc. Gives you the direction of the flux density, whether it is inside the paper, or it is directed outward the paper etc. Okay, so next one, magnetic field of a thin straight wire. So magnetic field of a thin straight wire. So how to calculate the magnetic field of a thin straight wire? Using Biot-Savart's law, we can find the magnetic field. So using Biot-Savart's law, we can find the magnetic point P created by a thin straight wire with the current B is equal to mu naught I by 4 pi a cos theta 1 minus cos theta 2. Okay, where a is the distance from the wire to P, theta 1 and theta 2 are the angles shown in the picture. So B, you know, mu naught I, instead of taking as dl, we can write it as cos theta 1 minus cos theta 2. So this you can see here, mu naught I 4 pi, this is taken as theta 1 and this is taken as theta 2. Okay, so if suppose if you are taking that one as a theta 1, the value, that angle should be substituted here, and theta 2 angles should be substituted here. And what is a? A is the distance from the wire to the point P. So you can see in this analogy, so this is the current carrying conductor. So current is passing through this wire in this direction. Okay, so now we have to determine what is the magnetic field at this point. So what is the magnetic field at this point? So straight current carrying conductor. So what we did, we took one line like this, and this we have taken as theta 1 and this we have taken as theta 2, and that we have substituted here in the formula mu naught I, where I is the current which is passing in this conductor, Okay, and 4 pi a is the distance from the current carrying conductor to the point where we have to calculate the magnetic field intensity. So that is taken as a, and cos theta 1 minus cos theta 2. So in this way one can calculate what is the magnetic field at the point P. Okay, so that is also using Biot-Savart's law. Next one, magnetic field at an infinitely long wire. So a magnetic field at an infinitely long wire. For a magnetic field at an infinitely long wire. So for an infinitely long wire, as we see in the last analogy, so in this one, so here, so this one, theta, if it is very long, so like this, it's a very long wire carrying the current, so high, very long wire carrying the current I. So in this case, so here we have to consider what is the we have to type what calculate what we have to calculate what is the magnetic field at the point B. So here we can consider theta is equal to 0. So if you calculate like this, and 1, so since it is very long, so here one is theta is equal to pi almost, and other one theta is equal to this theta, this becomes 0 almost because it is very long, and other one becomes that is equal to pi. So in such cases, so the magnetic field B can be calculated as mu naught I by 2 pi a. What is a? A is the distance from the point B to this one. So from the center to the point B. So this can be called as a. Okay. So A is the distance I have written here. A is the distance from the wire, and I is the current in the wire. And if you substitute this one, we can calculate what is the magnetic field. Very thin, long, straight wire. Very thin, very long straight wire, almost something like infinite long wire. So mu is equal to mu naught I by 2 pi a. So if it is a very small wire, then as I told here, so you have to add a factor here, two factors, cos theta 1 minus cos theta 2. So this expression shows that the magnitude of the magnetic field is proportional to the current and decreases with the increasing distance from the wire. Obviously, suppose if this is the current carrying wire, if you take the magnetic field B, there will be a little bit higher magnetic field. Suppose if you take the magnetic field here, so let us say it is B1 and B2. So magnetic field decreases. So it is given is proportional to the current. So that you know, less current, less magnetic field, more current, more magnetic field, and as you move away from the straight carrying conductor, the magnetic field goes on decreasing. Hope you have understood this one. So we can go for the next concept. Gauss law for magnetic field. So what is this Gauss law for magnetic field? So let us see the statement. In a closed surface of a magnetic field, every line that enters the surface must be a line emerging out of the surface. So the Gauss law tells you that in a closed magnetic field, every line that enters the surface is a line which moves away from the surface, is called as Gauss law of a magnetic field emerging out of the surface. Okay. So next we can see the analogy. Since the magnetic flux always forms a closed loop, the total flux over a closed loop is equal to 0. It tells that the total flux, you know that one in a magnetic field, like suppose if this is a bar magnet. So this is a north pole of a magnet and this is south pole of a magnet. So magnetic field lines pass from north pole and goes and ends with the south pole, again comes back to the north pole. So hence it forms a closed loop. It forms a close. Similarly, you take another one. So in this way it goes and combines and again comes back. Suppose if you take an area, here, you can see that, so this is the line entering and this is the line goes up. So what he tells is, in a closed magnetic field, every line, so you can see this line is entering from this point to this area and the same line is moving from this area. So every line that enters the surface, there must be a line emerging out of the surface. So this is called as Gauss law for magnetic flux. Okay. So here total flux over the closed surface is equal to 0. So he gives an equation telling that phi is equal to closed integral of b dot ds. So phi is equal to closed integral of b dot ds. So that is equal to 0. So he tells that that is equal to 0 because it is a closed loop. So total flux in that area is equal to 0, as you know this one. So here if you suppose if you try to calculate the flux here, what is the flux? Whatever the line which enters from this point, it goes out of this one. So what is the total flux inside this area? Total flux inside this area phi is equal to 0. So phi is equal to, can be written as from the surface integral closed contour b dot ds will be equal to 0. But from the Gauss divergence theorem, so it can be noted that b dot ds, so it can be noted b dot ds can be written as closed volume integral. So surface integral can be written in terms of volume integral. So b dot ds can be written as closed volume integral b dot del dot b into dv. So this we have written in accordance with the Gauss divergence theorem. So when you equate, so equation 1 and 2, so it can be written as thus: closed volume b dot del dot b dv is equal to 0. Since this is equal to 0 because no flux is remaining in the closed volume ds. If you take this as a ds as the closed volume, so there is no flux remaining here. So this reduces to 0. Then we can write closed volume integral del dot b dv is equal to 0. So this Gauss law for magnetism says that actually there is no magnetic charges analogous just like to the electric charges. Instead, the magnetic field due to the material is generated by configuration called as dipole, and he tells that actually no net outflow of the magnetic field through any closed loop is 0. So you know that magnetic dipoles are best represented as loop of the current by resembling positive negative charges or magnetic charges, inseparably bound charges having no net magnetic charge. In terms of field lines, the equation states that the magnetic field lines neither begin or end but makes a loop extended to infinity. So in other words, we can tell that magnetic field lines that enters a given volume must somewhere exist from the volume. Equivalent technical statement that some people can state like this also: the sum of total magnetic flux through a Gaussian surface is 0, or that magnetic field is a solenoidal vector field. Okay. So you can, that's what I have given here. So I have written here, I can see from this diagram del dot b that is equal to 0. Divergence of b is equal to 0. Divergence of an closed loop is always equal to 0. That's actually form of a Gauss law. Okay. So next, continuing that one, so we got del closed integral of del dot b into dv is equal to 0. What is dv? dv is a small volume enclosed by the closed surface, hence dv is not 0. Hence we can write that del dot b is equal to 0. So what is dv? dv means it's a small volume enclosed in the surface. That's what I told. Suppose the magnetic field lines are passing like this from the north pole. Suppose if this is the north pole and south pole of a magnet, so you can see that magnetic field lines are passing like this, in this way. Okay, we have taken a small surface area. In that we have taken a small volume. Okay, so here volume integral. So volume in the sense even the lines coming out from that volume. So here volume cannot be reduced to 0. So volume we cannot have that is 0, because in this one what we get is dv volume cannot be equal to 0. So that is like this: a dot b is equal to 0, either a is equal to 0 or b is equal to 0. Since dv is not equal to 0, we can write that del dot b is equal to 0. Very important equation is this one. So we can tell that divergence, so it can be a divergence of magnetic field. Divergence of magnetic field is zero. There is no source or sink from the magnetic field. They form closed loop. Hence, magnetic field are said to be solenoidal. As I told, the sum of the total magnetic flux through a Gaussian surface is zero, or some people will tell that the magnetic field is a solenoidal vector field. So this is actually called as Gauss law of magnetism. Hope you understood that one. Okay, so it is very clear in this one. So you can see that one I have given here one del dot b. So it is so del dot b. So del dot b, you can see here. So the magnetic flux, the flow of magnetic field in a volume, magnetic flux traveling from north to south is a continuous loop, and there is no magnetic charges since there is a magnetic field lines here. Okay, so some of the interesting fact we can see here. So one, Gauss law for magnetism tells you, so this law actually tells you the magnetic monopoles does not exist. That means there is no such like charges like positive charge and negative charge. So there are positive and negative charges. Positive charges, this where the electric field lines emanate from this one, and negative charges, the electric field lines goes and converges with the negative charges. So this happens in the charge. But when you consider a north pole and south pole of a magnet, so this is a north pole of a south pole of a magnet, you cannot simply keep the magnet as a north pole of a magnet. Simply you cannot write this is my north pole of the magnet and this is the south pole of the magnet. So it is not, it is just like the two faces of a coin. If a head is there, simultaneously there should be a tail. So north pole and south pole of the magnet exist. Suppose if you break the magnet, so what happens? You know that one, it further gets into two tiny magnets. Is it right? One is north pole, other is south pole. One is again north pole and other will be the south pole. Again it gets into two tiny magnets. So magnetic monopoles, there is no such north pole or there is no such a south pole separated. Both are together as just like the two faces of the coin. One side of the magnet is north pole, obviously other end will be the south pole of the magnet. So it tells you that this law tells you that magnetic monopoles does not exist. Next one, that the line integral of the magnetic field, the line integral of the magnetic field around the closed loop vanishes. So line integral, as I told, so this one, so you can take this analogy. So here, so this you can see, so the line, number of lines which enters, number of lines leaves the surface. So there is, in if you take just like a water in a pipe, suppose water is entering from one end of the pipe, water should come out other end of the pipe. So suppose simply take the pipe, so pipe doesn't have any water. So something like that, line integral of the magnetic field are around any closed loop vanishes. The net charge in any given volume, it also gives you the net charge, total volume in any volume. So magnetic field of an current element, it also gives the magnetic field of any current element. From that you can calculate what is the magnetic field due to the current carrying element, as we saw in just like the Biot-Savart's law. The charges must be moving to produce the magnetic field. So Gauss law tells you that whenever there is a movement of an electric current, it gives you actually the magnetic field. So movement of the charges always produces the magnetic field, as if like the statement, you know, I is equal to, you know, uh, moment of the charges. So I is equal to, it is q by t, I is equal to q by t. So whenever there is a moment of the charge, it produces the current, and we know current, whenever there is a current, this gives you the magnetic field. Current and magnetic field are interrelated. So these are some of the characteristics of Gauss law of magnetism. So next one we can see is the Ampere's law, or some people will call it as an Ampere's circuital law. So Ampere's law, in addition to the Maxwell equations, Actually, it states that magnetic field can be generated in two ways, by either by electric current. As you know, whenever there is a movement of the current, that gives you the magnetic field, or by changing the electric field. So when you change, that comes as a displacement current in addition, that we can see later. So by changing the electric field, just like the capacitor, positive negative positive negative, if it is given connection to an AC supply, so in such cases, you can also generate the magnetic field. Actually, in integral form, magnetic field induces around a closed loop is directly proportional to the magnetic field induced around a closed loop is directly proportional to the current, electric current plus displacement current through the enclosed surface. So in a simple statement, it can be told that the line integral of magnetic flux density, so the line integral of magnetic flux density over a closed path is equal to product of the current enclosed by the path and permeability of the medium. So it tells you that the line integral of flux density, magnetic flux density over a closed path is equal to the product of the current. Where is the current? The current is moving in that current carrying conductor by the path and permeability of the medium. So it can be written as closed integral. So you can write here, see, closed integral B dot dl. What is dl? Dl is the current carrying element and B is the magnetic field. So B dot dl is equal to mu I. So if this is the current carrying element, so like this, the current carrying element, current I, which is a current carrying element dl. So the magnetic field B at this point can be calculated as closed integral B dot, if you know the value of B and if you know the value of dl, you just multiply and take the closed integral from this to this. So whatever it is, that gives you the value of the current. B is equal to mu into I. So further, since we know it is, you can write, since B can be written as mu into H, so further this can be written as, instead of writing this one as, since we know B is directly proportional to H, magnetic field intensity is directly proportional to the magnetization, etc. So we can replace that B as mu into H, and mu gets cancelled out. So the final equation reduces to closed integral H dl is equal to I. So next, further, by the concept of curl and the differential form, so the same integral, this can be further written in terms of differential form as del cross H is equal to J. So del cross H is equal to J, where J is called as current density, current through unit area. So this is again very, very important equation. Okay, del cross H is equal to J. And Ampere's law, regarding this Ampere's law, I have to quote one thing. Okay, telling that it makes a set of equations mathematical consistent for non-static field without changing the law for Maxwell equation. Okay, so this is one. Next one we can see is Faraday's law of electromagnetic induction. Faraday's law of electromagnetic induction. So what is this Faraday's law of electromagnetic induction? So the statement tells you that the magnitude of the induced EMF in a circuit is equal to rate of change of magnetic flux through it. So the statement tells you that the magnitude of induced EMF in a circuit is equal to rate of magnetic flux, rate of change of magnetic flux through it. So you can see in this diagram, so it is very clear. So there is a magnet here which is having north pole and south pole. So this magnet is made to insert inside the coil. You have seen in the lower classes and all, coil and magnet experiment, we are taking a magnet and we are putting the magnet inside the coil. So when you put the magnet inside the coil, as a result the galvanometer will shows a deflection. When you move the coil away from the magnet, again galvanometer shows you the deflection in the opposite side. So we know that this is the magnetic line, so passing from north pole to south pole like this. So these are the magnetic lines which are passing. So here, so when you insert the magnet inside the coil, all the magnetic lines are broken, which creates you the current. Okay, which creates you the current, and that is shown in the galvanometer. Okay. So this gives you the current in the galvanometer. So further, when you move this coil and magnet with respect to the coil, more and more current will be generated. That it tells you that the magnitude of the induced EMF, the magnitude of the induced EMF in a circuit is equal to rate of change of magnetic flux. More and more you change the magnetic flux, more and more the EMF is induced in the coil. So next, the induced EMF will be in the direction which opposes the cause. And actually, it tells that Faraday's law says that magnetic field changes which causes the voltage, a difference in the electric potential that can make current flows. So we could now just imagine like this. We could imagine filling a wire loop with a thin surface like soap film. Okay, this just imagine that filling the wire loop. So this wire loop is filled with a thin surface like a soap film. The formula tells us that that tells that every point on that surface measures how much magnetic field is pointing straight through the loop at that point, and add up all those measurement to get a single number. So by this the number is the magnetic, that number is actually gives you the magnetic flux. When the flux changes, it produces electromotive force. The flux changes when B changes with the wire loop is moved or bent. When both happens, the electromotive force can be calculated using the formula E is equal to d phi by dt. So it tells you that the induced EMF will be in the direction which opposes the cause. The induced EMF is given by E is equal to minus d phi by dt, where phi is the flux linking with the circuit. So what is phi? Phi is actually these flux lines. More and more you break these flux lines, more and more you are inducing the circuit. So actually it is written as E is equal to minus d phi by dt, d phi by dt. So next, further, so if there are n number of loops, for example, you have seen the coil here. So if there are n number of loops, one loop it is d phi by minus d phi by dt. If there are n number of loops, the induced EMF can be written as E is equal to minus n phi by d n into d phi by dt. So, and the induced current in the circuit, I already told that when you move the magnet inside the coil, so galvanometer is showing the deflection. That means a voltage is induced or a current is produced. So what is the amount of current produced? The amount of current produced is given by the equation I is equal to E by R. What is E? E is the EMF induced in the coil due to the movement of the magnet. And what is R? R is the resistance of the coil. Because of that, the current is induced in the circuit given by I is equal to E by R. Hope it is very clear. Again, I repeat the law. The magnitude of the induced EMF in the circuit is the rate of change of magnetic flux through it. And what is the amount of magnetic flux induced? It is EMF induced is given by E is equal to minus d phi by dt. If there are n number of coils, E is equal to minus n into d phi by dt. As a result, current produced in the coil is given by I is equal to E by R. So this is actually called as Faraday's law of electromagnetic induction. So actually the equation says you that how much current is induced in the wire loop depending on or how fast the magnetic flux is changing in time, whether due to the loop moving on the magnetic field changes, etc. So this law is actually demonstrated by Michael Faraday, one of the leading English physicists in the year actually 1831, which is actually the basic law of electromagnet. And this is the main law which helps in the manufacturing of generator, transformer, electric motors, etc. So next, coming to the integral form of Faraday's law. So integral form of Faraday's law. So statement, consider a closed loop subjected to a change in the magnetic flux phi. The EMF induced is just like we can imagine like this. We can imagine closed loop of a wire. So to figure out how much current will be induced, that is due to the magnetic field, how much the change between the change in the magnetic field, how much current is figured out in the wire. We need to define magnetic flux. Okay, so the number describing how much magnetic field is actually going through the loop. So magnetic field are generally a vector field. So they both have strength as well as direction. So the equation can be written as E is equal to closed integral of E dot dl. So E is the EMF induced, and we know that according to the Faraday's law also, so E is equal to minus d phi by minus d phi by dt, or that is integral of dB by dt into ds. Okay, so the induced EMF is E is equal to d phi by dt. So this one we have seen further, and this is according to the d phi by dt, or minus dB by dt into ds. Okay, so if you equate the equation 1 and equation here 2, in such cases we can write that E dot dl is closed integral of E dot dl is equal to minus integral of d by dt into ds. So this gives you the EMF induced in both the way. If you know what is the value of E, electric field, and the line element dl, you can calculate what is the EMF induced. Or if you know what is the change in the magnetic field, as I told, so magnetic field is going to change, which induces the current. So we can define it by magnetic flux. So that is dB by dt into ds. We can calculate what is the induced EMF. So induced EMF E can be calculated in both the ways. One is E dot dl. If you know the electric field, you can calculate, or else if you know the magnetic field, it is dB by dt into ds. Both gives you the induced EMF. So this is actually called as integral form of Faraday's law. Closed integral of E dot dl is equal to minus integral of dB by dt into ds. So next one, we can see the differential form of Faraday's law. So what is this differential form? See, according to the Stokes theorem, what is Stokes theorem? You are to convert the line integral into surface integral. So Stokes theorem tells you that E dot dl, so it is clear, closed integral of E dot dl is equal to closed integral surface integral del cross E into ds. So electric field in the line element dl is converted into electric field across the surface area. Okay, so del cross E into ds. So next, from the integral form of Faraday's law, we have seen now just closed integral E dot dl is equal to minus closed integral dB by dt into ds. Okay, so we can see this one, EDL, that is EMF induced, can be written as minus integral of dB by dt into ds, and from the Stokes theorem, the line element can be converted into the surface area in this way, surface element del cross E into ds. So what we can do, we can equate 1 and 2 both. So from equation 1 and 2, we can see that, so from the equation 1 and 2, we can see that further closed integral d dot del cross E into ds is equal to closed integral of dB by dt into ds. So this is the closed integral of dB by dt into s. So by equating, so here what happens is, so in this equation, so this ds and ds we can get just cancel out further, and it can be written as del cross E. Del cross E is equal to minus dB by dt. So this is called as differential form of Faraday's law. One is integral form, other is a differential form of Faraday's law. Okay. So last one we have to discuss is called as very important one, is called as Maxwell equations. So what is this Maxwell equation? So Maxwell equation, it's an very prominent equation. I already stated in the starting class itself. So it's a set of coupled partial differential equation actually, that together with the Lorentz law and the foundation of classical that forms a foundation of classical electromagnetism, classical optics, electric circuits, and also equation provides a mathematical model for electric, optical and radio technology such as power generation, electric motors. It is used in the wireless communication, lenses, radar, etc. These equations also describe electric and magnetic field generated by the charges, current and change of the field, etc. It was named after the physicist now called as James Clerk Maxwell, who published these equations in the year almost something like 1861 or 62, and it's called as very famous equation called as Max equation, which governs almost all the electronic gadgets what we are using day-to-day life. Okay. So what is the equations? The following are the four Maxwell equation. You have to take care. The static field, you have to imagine that charges are constant, they doesn't move, they are static at a particular point. So these are the four Maxwell equation for static field. So what is the first one? Del dot D is equal to rho. Divergence of displacement density is equal to density, okay, charge density rho. That is first one. The second one, del dot B is equal to 0. Divergence of magnetic field. Magnetic field forms an closed loop. So divergence of magnetic field, it forms a closed loop as I told. So magnet, north pole and south pole, so it forms a closed loop like this. So divergence of the closed loop is always equal to 0. What about divergence of an open loop? Is not equal to 0. So curl of an open loop is equal to 0. Curl of an closed loop is not equal to 0. So this is very second equation, very important equation. Del dot D is equal to rho. Second one, del dot B is equal to 0. Third one, del cross H is equal to J. This we have seen the differential form of Ampere's law. Del cross H is equal to J, where J is the current density. And last one we have seen del cross E is equal to 0. Divergence, the curl of an electric field, as I told, curl represents only for closed loop quantity. But here for the open loop, like positive and positive and negative charges. So positive charges, the electric field comes out, so it forms an open loop. So when you take the curl is always representing the closed quantity like magnetic field, and divergence always represents the open quantity like this electric field. Okay, so divergence of a closed loop is equal to 0. Divergence of an open loop, that we can write like this, del dot B, sorry, del dot E if you want, del dot E is not equal to 0. Divergence of open loop is not equal to 0. But what about del cross E? It is a divergence, curl of an electric field. Curl of an electric field is always equal to 0, whereas curl, because electric field is an open vector, curl of an magnetic field, that we can write it as like this, del cross B is not equal to 0. So these are the set of four equations you have to know. First one, del dot D is equal to rho, del dot B is equal to 0, del cross H is equal to J, and del cross E is equal to 0. These are the four Maxwell equations for static field. Okay. So next we can see a small statement. Anywhere you go, it is said that any God said. So del dot D is equal to 0, del dot B is equal to del dot D is equal to rho, del dot B is equal to 0, del cross is equal to minus dou B by dou T, del cross H is equal to J plus dou D by dou T. That's the displacement, current density, etc. That we can see there is a light. So whenever you see a Maxwell equation, it tells you that there is a light. Okay, thank you. Hope you have understood all this Maxwell equation. In the next class, we can see equations of continuity. What are the correction factors for this Maxwell equation? Thank you so much.